Well, I'm extremely excited to be down here at Angler's Paradise. It's somewhere that I almost feel familiar with, despite the fact I've never set foot on the banks in person. But I almost feel like I do, because probably like a lot of you, I watched Mick Brown and Matt Hayes on the rod race, the Greater Rod Race. They came here on maybe 1 or 2 episodes trying to catch carp, catfish, orfe, I think, tench, all sorts. So I have grown up watching this complex. It's so somewhere that I've kind of got quite a soft spot for. Like I said, despite the fact I've never been here. But thank you to Catch for organising this session. Thanks to them, I'm down here and filming it for work. So that is an absolute treat. Now I'm actually on the El Dorado complex right now. There's 4 lakes on this site, one of which being the Carp and Cat Lake 2, which is the one behind me. That's where I'm going to be focusing my efforts on the next 24 to 36 hours. It's home to some of the bigger carp and catfish. But you've also got a Carp and Cat Lake 1, a general fishing lake, and a koi lake, which is covered in lilies, which looks beautiful as well. As I've said though, this is the lake I'm going to be focusing on for the next 24 to 36 hours. Let's get the barrow round to swim, set up, rods out, and hopefully catch some carp, because I'm not quite as keen on the catfish. I'm running because I nearly fell over. Setup wise, it's pretty much exactly how I fish everywhere I go. The only difference being are the actual rigs I'm using on this session, which I'll get onto in a second. But main line is 18 pounds straight through. I'm using my 9-foot 3-pound dwarfs. So anything I should hook in here should be fine. I'm pretty sure I'll know about it if I hook a catfish, but I have caught decent fish on this setup, so I'm sure I'll be absolutely fine. Running down to the end tackle part of things, I've got tungsten rig tubing going down the main line just for about 12 inches or so, just to protect the fish, and it pins that last bit of line down a bit more. And then I've got a running lead clip. Now what makes it running is that I'm not putting the bungs into the lead clip, so there's still the ability for that lead to come free if it gets caught. That can pop off, everything becomes free and it's really safe. But rather than putting the bung in, which keeps the lead clip in position, when I get that bite, the initial resistance of that swivel is what hooks the fish, but then all this is running on the line, and that stops the fish being able to use the weight as a point of pivot point to sort of get the hook out of their mouths. And you find that sometimes with the bites of these are pretty savage. Initially they might be a bit finicky, and then once they can't do anything with the hook, they bolt, you get some really good runs. And the hook holds I've had for this setup have been really good, and I've actually lost less fish since going over to a running ledger setup. Now the rigs are ever slightly different to how I'd normally fish. I normally opt for solid bag setup, as you've seen lots of times, or if I'm using a lead clip setup like this, I often go for a fluoro D rig. The reason I'm not going for that is because there's the presence of catfish. They've got those abrasive pads, and if I was using a fluoro, which is only, the stuff I normally use for my hook links is only £15, I run the risk of being snapped off by those abrasive pads on the catfish. So I've gone for a coated braid, only stripped just on the pivot point of the hinge, because these are multi-rigs that I've tied up here. I'm actually using wafters on these rather than being pop-ups. I may change over to pop-ups if I find the bottom requires that, but I like to have a bait fairly low to the deck. I'm going to be putting quite a bit of bait out with it, so hopefully I'm getting them grubbing around. Don't need something wafting around on the top. But if I'm finding there's some debris up there and an issues with that, I can easily just switch that over to a pop-up. Hook could be changed nice and easy as well, so if it gets dinged on a carp or a catfish, I can change that over nice and simply. But the coated aspect of it is the main reason I've changed over to this, because if I do hook any catfish, that should give me much more of a chance of landing them, because there's much more abrasion resistance on those rigs. Let's get these 2 out. It's actually gone midday already, so time's getting away from me. Get some bait out, and hopefully we can get something before it gets dark. The rods have been in situ now for the last couple of hours, and unfortunately, as of yet, no interest. But the carp are nice and active, which is promising. They've been rolling left, right, centre. So if they're moving, they're going to be hungry and they should be feeding. And at some point, they're going to cross either one of those rods, whether it be the one just off the island on the point where it's a bit of a patrol route, and a fish did roll there before I put that rod out, which is why I opted for there. And the other one is just off an overhanging tree that juts out from the island, probably about a rod length actually. So there's a lot of water between where my bait is and the island itself. But that one's situated there. It looks like a good little holding up spot, and I've heard some fish rolling under there as well. But while we wait for one of these 2 rods to go off, quick mention about the catch out once once again, because as you know, this session is brought to you by Catch. Now check the link in the description below of this video where I do a complete run through of how to use the app. I've done that multiple times before as well. So if you haven't heard of the Catch app, do check those ones out before, but I'm going to assume you have heard of it by now and that you've used it before and you know how to book on through it. So if I go onto my Catch app and go onto my profile, well, I've got my own setup. Go into bookings and you'll see that El Dorado comes up there, which is obviously where I am right now. Now what I want to show you at the moment is a new incentive through Catch and Angling Direct, because any order or any booking through the app now gives you a single use code every time you book on. So as you can see, I've booked on to El Dorado. There's my booking reference and everything and the price, but look right there in the middle, Angling Direct on terminal tackle and bait from Angling Direct store or via the MyAD app. So the only place you can't use this is on the website, so it's got to be through the app or in store. But 10% off all terminal tackle and bait, and there's my single use code, so I'll remember that and go across to the AD app, which I've got here. So my basket is empty at the moment, but there's a few things, as you see, I've already searched. I genuinely need some bait floss. I've been using fluoro material at the moment just to blob my baits down, which isn't ideal, and it's a bit more fiddly. So I do genuinely need that, so let's add that to my basket. There's the last one in stock by the looks of things. Let's see if there's a few other bits I need as well. I think I need some bait screws. See which ones they've got. I like in all seriousness, I like the new OMC ones with the little holes in so you can floss them as well as use the bait screws. So, yep, what's that? Which ones is it? Small, yes, small ones I prefer. Cool, let's get some of them. Continue shopping. And I feel like there's something else I need. I remembered what it was citrus wafters, because as it's coming into the colder weather, I'm going to start switching over to citrus, and I know I need a new pot of wafters for them. So there we are, we have 2 terminal tackle items and a bait, and that's coming to a total of $15.77. If I add my discount code, which is QDR20, SF1, and apply. Discount applied, there we go. So I've saved 10%, it's gone down to £14.19. Go to checkout, and we're all done. I'm not going to show you my card details and bank details, but I'm going to finish it off in a second. And hopefully, whilst I'm doing that, one of these 2 rods whizzes off. And maybe it warmed up a bit. I don't like it's got cold all of a sudden. Well, today has been a lot more tricky than I thought. Starting the excuses early, I don't think the weather's helping. The fact we had stacks of rain on the weekend, and then last night we had one of the first frosts of the year, which I've never done well after the first frost of the year. When it's that first initial cold snap, I think the fish just don't really know what's hit them. It takes a while for them to adjust. But I'm doing everything I can. I've been repositioning the rods, and I actually did about an hour and a half down the other end of the lake on the back of the wind. Well, I've only just got back in the swim, ready to put the rods back out, because I saw some fish showing down there. And I thought, well, it's worth a try, getting on the back of the wind, because it's quite a cold wind. But unfortunately, nothing happened down there either. So I've moved around, I've tried repositioning rods. Nothing has worked so far. But I'm hoping going into the evening that if this is more of a night water, I don't know. But there's every chance that I could have a productive evening. So I'm just putting the rods back out for the evening, putting this really stinky mix of boilie crumbs, stick mix, some small particle in there as well. So there's all sorts going on, then some liquids as well, just to make it really pungent. So if I was a catfish, I'd probably love this as well. I'm hoping that colder weather has kind of switched them off. But it's extremely cloudy, the water, with the amount of rain that's gone in, so visibility is really low. So the key thing to do is to get the fish's attention through sense of smell. And I've got this one I've now actually changed over to a snowman presentation, and I've done the same with the other one. So we've gone to more simple hair rig setups, because I've found that the bottom is extremely clean where I'm fishing. So I've gone to more simple tactics of how I've used before, not pop up, but this one is a snowman, so it should just waft around. It's going out to the island again. I'm not going as tight as I was before. I'm going just slightly off, because although it's deep enough, I think just going slightly off might mean if they're in a slightly deeper water, because also if I don't know how much the island's undercut or anything, just going slightly off, I know the rest assured that there'll be a good spot to drop on. I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm trying to concentrate on where I'm dropping this. So let's just get that in the right position. Probably about 6 foot off the corner of the island and dropped. Quite shallow, that goes down really quick, but I did have a cast around with the lead and I did find that it's deep enough out there. Some fish were showing there, so it's clearly where they're happy being. There we go, one rod out. Before the light completely goes, I'm going to quickly get the other one out and have some food and settle in for the night before it gets mighty cold once again, I believe. Well, unfortunately, last night was rather uneventful. I'm waking up rather despondent. I made my morning coffee, had my breakfast and moped about a little bit thinking, why on earth did nothing happen last night? Because the fish were there, I could hear them. I was up sporadically throughout the night, mainly because of the wind. As you can hear, it's still pretty high. It was got up to about 30, 35 mile an hour gusts last night, and that seems to have continued into this morning. So I was up at random bits throughout the night and listening to the water. I could hear that there were fish in front of me and pretty clearly feeding as well. There was multiple shows and I thought surely it's going to happen at some point tonight, but I woke up this morning, nothing happening, and the fish seem to have moved off this morning as well, hence why I'm not in my original swim, as you can see. So I packed up the bivvy, the bed chair and all the bits I didn't need, took them back to the van, and now I'm travelling lightly just off the Barrow and I moved around to back to where I tried yesterday afternoon, because it's quite clear that looking this morning the fish were in this area. I saw one roll where I've now got my right hand rod and it fizzed up, and since I've been here the rods have been in different places. Well, the right rod stayed where it is, but the left one I've moved around a bit using the baiting pole, just dropping it where fish have showed. So both of those rods are on spots where fish have showed this morning, but unfortunately nothing's happened. I'd be lying if I said it was still early in the morning. It's actually nearly 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I've been here a good few hours and it just doesn't seem to be happening, and that's just the way fishing goes. Excuses time, I'm going to bring it up. The weather over the weekend was horrendous. We had shed loads of rain, which has made every water, I think, that experienced the rain go a lot colder than it has been. The water clarity is diminished because of that as well. It's quite a murky colour. So I was focusing on trying to get the fish into my areas through sense of smell. So the bait I mixed up was really pungent, really strong smelling. And unfortunately, that's not even done it for me either. And then when I got here yesterday morning was the first frost that I've experienced anyway, and I've never done too well after the first frost of the year. So there's my excuses for why I've not succeeded on this trip. I've moved around, I've watched the water, I've moved to where fish have been, but they've just not been playing ball. So unfortunately, it's looking like this one is ending on a blank. But I hope you enjoyed the video anyway, and remember to check out the Catch app if you haven't done so already. Book yourself on here or anywhere else on the Catch app for your chance, well not even your chance, your ability to get that 10% discount on all tackle and bait on Angling Direct. But that's everything from me for now. I'm going to begrudgingly bring these rods in and start the couple of hour drive home and warm up in the van. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Come on, you could have gone then. Would have been a really cool ending to the video, but no, staying silent like you have all trip. Ah well, can't win them all.